I can't help but ask you about this because we're starting to see the rise of Goldberg here as we cruise into early '98, and we know in just a handful of months, man, he's going to have so much momentum, and then we know what happens in July at the Georgia Dome. So we're talking less than a year from his debut until he becomes the top guy. And I bring that up because these days there's a lot of discussion about who's a good wrestler and who's not a good wrestler. I guess some under oath testimony from Stephanie McMahon leaked last week, and people were having some fun with it, where she was basically saying Hulk Hogan wasn't a good wrestler. And people just got all over it. I mean, he's easily the most recognizable wrestler in the world. And there's a discussion about whether or not he was any good as a wrestler. And I don't know, man, just that makes me laugh because we would all sort of agree in the internet wrestling community. Well, Bill Goldberg wasn't a great wrestler, but that doesn't matter. Like, if you want to see the best boxing in the world and you're really not wanting to concern yourself with clouded judgment of performance enhancing drugs and big paydays and, fixed fights and promoters and pay-per-view and ticket sales, hey man, go watch Olympic boxing. That's what that is. But the minute you start putting it on pay-per-view and you start a promotion and you start selling tickets and merch, the actual skill of being a wrestler and having a great match, like, who would say The Rock is one of the best wrestlers ever? I mean,
he's not.
That's what I mean.
And neither was Steve Austin.
No.
They were just the biggest stars who made the most money.
Like the things that drew Steve Austin the most money were swearing, middle fingers, drinking
a beer. And I'm good at all of those things. And I never made that much money.
That's what I'm saying. It's not, technical holds and, 450 splashes and crazy suplexes. And by the way, I'm a fan of all of wrestling, but I just think it's interesting that it becomes this, hey, I know he sold more tickets and generated more revenue, but he wasn't very good. It's like, what the fuck is that? Like, this is a business.
Again, you're bringing me back to why I have so much fun. People ask me, like, wow, man, you're 70 years old. Why are you still, fucking with Dave Meltzer? And what's wrong with you? And it's like, first of all, it's fun for me. It's my hobby. I don't play golf. It's too cold outside here in Wyoming right now anyway. Even if I did, I'd still do it. But number one, it's easy and it's fun. And it's fun to watch these people react. But I sound like I'm picking on AEW, and I really don't want to do that. But it's one of the challenges when you come out and say, AEW, we're the best wrestler. Well, define best. What does best mean to you? It's a very individual perception based on your own biases. You perceive someone to be the best because they do things that are very, very athletic and you find stimulating. So you think that person is the best. Let's pick, I don't know, Will Ospreay. I'm a fan. I enjoy watching Will Ospreay wrestle. He's a million miles from the best because he's not drawing any money. He's not drawing ratings. He's not drawing anything. He's really, really good at what he does. But he's certainly not the best wrestler because my definition of best wrestler is about the business of the wrestling business, because without the business, there is no wrestling. My idea of the best wrestler, and this is not my quote, but the best worker in a business is the guy that makes, or gal that makes the most money. That's it. That's the best. If you're in the professional wrestling industry, just like if you're in the movie industry.
Hang on, Eric. I want to tag in on something you're saying there. I think you're going down the me and you. I think I speak Eric sometimes. Yes. And I think what you're saying there about the best wrestler is the one who makes the most money. You don't mean the best wrestler is the one who negotiates the best contract for himself, although there is an argument for that. I think what you mean is the best wrestler is the one who generates the most revenue.
Better way of saying it. Thank you for that clarification.
Yes.
Stone Cold Steve, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin. So Steve Austin is going to tell you he's the best technical wrestler out there, neither would Hulk Hogan. But you can go back and look at some Steve Austin matches, and you'll know that he had injuries along the way. But at one point in time, he could go out there and bang with anybody.
Yes.
He could chain wrestle with you. He could do all that stuff. He just couldn't make any money doing it. But when Stone Cold Steve Austin emerged and that character came to life, the character is what drew the money, not the moves inside of the ring. And that's where the Dave Meltzers of the world and his little cult of creepy wrestling fans that follow him and believe everything he says, that's where they fall apart, because they don't understand the business of the business. And since they perceive the Will Ospreys of the world to be the best based on what they like, their bias, and they're completely ignorant of, when I say ignorant, lack of information and knowledge, I don't mean it to sound derisive. It is, but it's lack of information and knowledge. They have no insight as to how the business really works. Their only insight is their perception of what it is somebody does that they like. And that's why the internet is such a fun community. And you get such intelligent dialogue.
It's just fascinating to me to take a look and see a guy like Goldberg here who's getting, he is less than a year from starting wrestling school, and he's already getting big reactions and big pops. And when we step out of that comfort zone of what's working and we ask him to go wrestle a 6-minute match on pay-per-view with Mongo, it's just not good. But we come back on like January 12th in Jacksonville. We got a sellout there, 8,700 fans, and he's going to wrestle Jerry Flynn. They had just done this match at a worldwide taping, and it was so hot and well received, they decided to do it on Nitro. And man, it was awesome. Flynn even cut Goldberg's tongue with a sidekick to Goldberg's face. They're working really, really stiff. They're trying some submission holds. It only goes 1 minute and 23 seconds. And Dave says the opener was a great UWF style match as Bill Goldberg beat Jerry Lynn in 124. And he says the idea is, Wade wrote this. This is about as real looking as a worked pro wrestling match gets. And that's what's working. Like, I want to read that again. This is about as real looking as a worked pro wrestling match gets. We want to believe, Eric.
Yep.
We want to get lost in it. And it becomes an expose when you have Goldberg and McMichael trying to do things they're really not ready to do.
Can I jump in there?
It takes us out of it is where I was going. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it does take us out of it. But going back to, but specifically your comment towards Bill and McMichael in that match, and the fact that it fell apart, it did neither of them any good. And in my opinion, it was a mistake. I'll take the responsibility. It happened under my watch. Might not have been my idea, or it might have been, but it was my responsibility, so it doesn't fucking matter. My bad. Part of what made the decision, whoever it was, worse, and this is where Bill was really vulnerable in a way. Bill knew what he didn't know. Bill was very aware that he was green. He was doing something it's completely out of his element. It's 180 degrees opposite of what he's been doing since he was 6 years old in terms of the way he approaches his performance. He handled all that pretty well. The part he didn't handle too well is you had 3 or 4 or 5 people in his ear at all times. And the real lack of experience that got to Bill at that point in time wasn't necessarily the lack of experience in the ring. It was his lack of experience in being able to sift through the people that were trying to influence him. Some were good people that were looking out for him. They may have bad perspectives. They may have suggested some things that weren't necessarily 100% right, but their intention was. But there were also people in Bill's ear that were really excited to see him fall. They want to see him fail because it's more likely that they'll be in that spot that he's in. And I don't want to give the impression that that was like really prevalent, but it existed. And it certainly existed with Bill. That was one of the biggest challenges with Bill. He didn't have enough of his own experience to go, oh, that's bullshit. He didn't know. And therefore he would listen to a lot of people, and not everybody had Bill's best interest at heart.